So we're going to work on another shape similar to this one, and we're going to use a similar process to achieve similar results. And these are all just different methods for producing a carved shape. So I'm going to use the interpolated curves again, and instead of using interpolated curves, I think I'm going to just use control point curves so I can get a nice smooth line here. I'm going to turn my ortho off, my gumball off, and I'm just going to keep my object snaps disabled. And I'm going to start to just create an arced shape here. And then I'm in top view. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do another one here. And I'm going to go through the same process again. I'm going to turn my object snaps on so I can have the endpoint selected, and I'm going to go ahead and close this shape off. I'm going to join it together, and then I'm going to go into perspective, and I'm just going to extrude this curve. And let's do it a similar distance as we did before. I think I said 20 feet, and so there it's created that for us. And I'm going to zoom the selected object so that way I'm rotating just around it. So what we need to do now is we need to figure out a new way to carve this, and the way we're actually going to do it is through a series of lines that we create that we can then loft together. And so what I'm actually looking to achieve here is more of a spiraling shape, a spiraling carving motion. And so let's try and achieve that. So the first thing I need to do is go into top view. I'm going to open up the lines area here so that way you can see all the lines here, and I'm just going to use a regular old line. And I'm going to start my first line sort of out here outside of the object, and then I'm going to hit spacebar to repeat the command, and I'm just going to do another one like right there, and another one right there, and one last one here. So I've got 4 lines, and they kind of sort of follow perpendicular to the curve I'm doing, just approximated. And so now that I have those drawn, what I'm going to do now is move these up incrementally so that way I can start to create a spiral. So I need to move each one of these curves up a certain dimension, and since we made it 20 feet tall, I think I'm going to go, since I have 1, 2, 3 here, I'm going to go 5, 10, 15. Yeah, and the first one's going to be 0, and the first one is actually going to be this line right here. So I'm going to leave this one at 0, and I'm going to move these 3 up. So I'm going to turn on my gumball because it's an easy way to move. I don't have to type any commands or anything, and I'm just going to click the blue arrow, and I'm going to type 5 for 5 feet, and you notice they'll all move. And then in order to deselect one line, I'm going to hold down Control and then click that line I don't want anymore, and it'll deselect it. And then I'm going to do the same process and incrementally move all these up 5 again. And then I'm going to deselect this last one, and then I'm going to move this last line up 5 again. So now you can see each one of those have moved up 5, with the first one being at the 0 plane. So now what I can do is loft these together. I'm going to loft them, select all of them, and hit loft. And I'm going to say OK because it looks good to me. And so now I have that one taken care of. So let's go ahead and split this out, right? So let's use the same command that we did before, Boolean split. And I'm going to select the object I want split, hit enter, and then select the cutting object, and hit enter. And then if I hide this portion here and that surface, you can see now I've created a spiral. If you go into your other views here and hide all the information in the background so you just have that object, you can start to see the spiral there. I'm going to turn all my views into shaded so you can see it in all views. So you can see in front view that using those series of lofted straight lines and moving them up incrementally will give me sort of a lifting motion that takes this object up off the ground. And it's also done in a spiral. So it's looking pretty interesting there. I can accept that. And so let's go ahead and do another one on this side. But this time, let's cut it going the other direction, right? So instead of from down to up, let's start from the top and work our way down. So what we need to do is the same exact process. So I'm going to go to the lines here in the toolbar. I'm just going to select a line, and I'm mirror the selection. These lines here. I mean, you could. The only problem with that and mirroring that is you don't have an axis to necessarily mirror off of. So you would sort of just be doing it at random. And since I don't want the exact same result again, I'm just going to go ahead and redraw new lines. You could do what I just did right now and mirror it like that, and then you could mirror it again. And then, no, let's not even worry about that. Let's go ahead and just draw fresh lines. We'll have more control that way. So I'm going to draw a line out here. Bless you. And I'm going to just do the same process again. Draw another line there. Another line there. And another line there. So now I've created, again, 4 curves. And so now that I have those created, I'm going to go ahead and X out of my line toolbar. And let's say if I was using lines and I was also using curves a lot. Let's say I was using both of these and I don't want to keep clicking to open them. What you can actually do is combine them together. If you go ahead and select that, you can drag it in there, and now I'm creating my own customized toolbar. So maybe if I'm just using lines and curves, now I have this and it's really easy for me there. And if you want and you really use this a lot, you could dock it anywhere. So that's just something for, depending on if you're using something a lot, this will help you with this speeding up your process because they'll be readily available and they'll be right here. So like for instance, if we were using the Boolean stuff a lot too, I might want to bring that up there too and make that part of this as well. So now I'm using the solids, curves, and lines, you know, and it's all right there for me, and it's just less time trying to remember where things are because you're creating your own custom toolbar there. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these lines that I just drew, and since our object is 20 tall, I'm going to go ahead and move them all up 20 so they're all at the same level. And then I'm going to deselect the one that's not on the plane. Or you know what? That's the wrong one there. So I'm going to move them all up 20. And I'm going to deselect this one. And then I'm going to move them all down -5. So I'm going to go -5. Deselect that line. Then -5 again. Deselect that line. And then -5. So now I've created a spiral in the opposite direction. So instead of it spiraling up, this one's spiraling down. And now I'm going to loft those curves together. So create another lofted surface. And let's go ahead and do the Boolean split. So now I got my toolbars here. I can go right to it. Let's find out where it is. Boolean split. Select the object, hit enter. Select my cutting object, hit enter. And when I hide these 2 pieces of information that I used, now it shows my result. And so you can see here I've used lofted curves now to carve out an object. There it is. So this is something that's super helpful. I typed in filter to find it, and it's actually called selection filter. And when you click that, it'll bring up a dialog box here for you. And you'll notice that all this stuff is checked. And so what that means is it's going to select all these objects here. So let's say if I just turn on just curves checked. Now when I highlight over this, it's only going to select curves because I have just the curve selected. If I were to just want to select just the poly surface, now when I highlight over this, it's only selecting the poly surface. So this is a good way if you have overlapping geometry like what I have here. I have lines and poly surfaces on top of each other, and let's say I want to move these curves out of the way, but I want to keep the poly surface there. I can just select the curves, and then when I highlight over them, that's all that's going to be selected, and then I could move that information over, and my poly surface will remain. Now just be careful if you do use this, because if you don't recheck these, you're not going to be able to move them, and you're going to be, why can't I move any of this stuff? And you're going to freak out. So I'm going to just go ahead and flip all this back on. So it's all back on. I was just showing that as an example there. And if you want and you like this option too, you can also put this up in the toolbar there, and you can customize your own toolbar. For now, I'm just going to X out of it, and what it's called is selection filter. And the best way to find it is to start to type the word filter, and it'll be your second option there.
What?
Selection filter.